The year is 1984. You're a regular human being on a camping trip with 3 of your best friends. You're all wearing bright colors, dancing the cool disco from a boombox in the middle of a very dense forest. People did whatever the hell they wanted back then. After a night of stories around the campfire, you decide you're gonna take a short walk alone under the full moon. What's the worst that could happen? But as you walk past a particularly large bush, you hear a low growl coming from within the leaves. You decide to investigate, but as you get closer, a huge beast lunges out from the shadows, tearing into your flesh with its massive claws. This wolf is enormous, far bigger than any creature you've ever seen before. Despite your screams, help arrives too late, and the wolf has already run off into the forest before anyone else could see it. One of your friends calls for help on his comically large 80s cell phone, and you quickly rush to the nearest hospital. At first it seems like you'll be okay. But unfortunately for you, that was no normal wolf. And you don't know it yet, but your life as a regular human being has just ended. The curse of the werewolf begins with blood and pain. The doctors in the hospital try everything, but no matter what they do, nothing seems to help the wound heal. It's excruciating, and it feels like your blood is on fire. You have dreams about moons and dogs, which you put down to trauma, but it's much more than that. Your journey to becoming a werewolf has begun. Over the following days, the infection travels through your bloodstream and you experience what seems like a severe flu. You've got a fever, chills, muscle aches, and vivid nightmares of blood-red moons and wolves howling in the dark forest. Gradually, your fever becomes incredibly high and your skin is almost too hot to touch. Traditional werewolf lore explains this as your body fighting the curse, a battle it ultimately loses. After a week in the hospital, in a feverish, half-asleep, half-awake dream state, you wake up feeling perfectly fine. Maybe even better than before. Your mind is clear, you feel agile and full of energy, and somehow the bite wound has completely disappeared. The doctors are stumped at how it could have vanished so quickly. They run tests and find nothing. You're even healthier than you were when you first arrived at the hospital. That night, while you're looking through some of the hospital paperwork at home, you accidentally give yourself a paper cut. But by the time you reach for a bandage, the wound has already healed. If you didn't know it already, you do now. Things have changed. Moments after, you start to feel all the other changes, like your sharpened senses, which are so strong that they feel like your head is about to explode. The scent of food being cooked from your neighbor's house half a mile away hits you like you're right there standing in their kitchen. You can hear conversations through walls, heartbeats across rooms, and the skittering of mice in the attic. Bright lights become painful, and sounds like high-pitched noises or crying babies cause actual physical pain. These enhanced senses, which will eventually become advantages, initially isolate you from normal human interaction. As you struggle to process the sensory overload, your appetite changes drastically. You develop intense cravings for raw meat, sometimes finding yourself salivating at the butcher's counter or while passing a steakhouse. Vegetables and processed foods become unappealing, even nauseating. Your body requires significantly more protein and calories than before to fuel the changes happening within. The physical changes manifest next. Your nails thicken and grow faster. Body hair becomes coarser and more abundant. Your teeth, particularly your canines, appear slightly larger and sharper. These changes are subtle enough that others wouldn't notice immediately, but you certainly do. Your strength and stamina increase noticeably. You can suddenly lift heavy objects with ease, run further without tiring, and recover from physical exertion way quicker. But that's not all. Your emotions change too. You find yourself quicker to anger, more territorial about your personal space, and strangely drawn to establish dominance in social situations. Some werewolf lore attributes this to the wolf mind beginning to assert itself within your human consciousness. The wolf doesn't understand social niceties or complex human relationships. It only understands pack hierarchy, territory, and threat assessment. These new instincts clash with your regular human socialization, creating an internal conflict that brings mood swings, irritability, and some occasional aggression. You grow isolated from friends and family as you turn into a person they don't recognize anymore. Your boys from the camping trip earlier, they don't really want to hang out with you. They think you're kind of a dick. But all of these changes pale in comparison to what happens during your first full moon. In the days leading up to it, your symptoms intensify. Sleep becomes nearly impossible as restlessness and anxiety build. Your joints ache constantly as bones prepare to reshape themselves. Your skin feels too tight, itching from within. Then, the night finally arrives, and it's one of the worst moments of your life. The first transformation is agonizing. Unlike the quick, almost magical transformations you see in movies, a real werewolf transformation is a horrific process of bones breaking and reforming, muscles tearing and rebuilding, and skin stretching to accommodate your new form. The pain is so extreme that many werewolves lose consciousness almost immediately and wake up naked and alone in the middle of nowhere, none the wiser about what they did when they were in their wolf form. Lycanthropy, which is the condition that causes someone to become a werewolf, can cause vastly different forms of werewolves depending on the strain of the curse, the werewolf who passed it on, or even what part of the world you're in. Some werewolves look just like a normal wolf, but absolutely massive and with keen intelligence. Others become bipedal wolf-human hybrids, able to stand upright but also move on all fours with tremendous speed. Luckily for you, you're one of those bipedal wolves, which seems like the best of both worlds. Not that you remember it the first time. In the beginning, almost no human consciousness remains while you're in wolf form. You pretty much just black out. The quote-unquote wolf mind takes over, and it operates on primal instincts and drives. Things like controlling your territory, hunting, and survival become your only concerns. As I said, newly turned werewolves have basically no memory of their actions during the full moon. You might wake up miles from where your transformation began, sometimes covered in blood with no idea whether it's from an animal or a human victim. You only get brief fragments of memory that seem so distant and hard to read that you're sure it was just tiny snippets from a dream. This loss of both your control and your memory is potentially the most psychologically devastating aspect of lycanthropy. You never know what you might have done while you're not yourself. When you're in human form, you find it safer to just assume that you've done something horrible and prepare for the worst. You're constantly waiting for a knock on the door from the police. Or worse, some kind of werewolf hunter or angry mob, and your life will be over. However, all is not lost. Eventually, the more experienced werewolves in your area notice prey going missing, and they track you back to your house as the source of it. Instead of just eliminating you, they offer to teach you the tricks of the trade to tame the wolf mind. That part of you that's in control when you transform. You see, unlike vampires, werewolves are inherently social creatures. Belonging to a pack is one of the most important part of your wolf desires, which is probably why you felt so empty up until now. With their teaching and enough time and experience, you'll not only be able to remember what you did when you were a wolf, but maybe even control it. Still, as your training begins with meditation, journaling, and drinking 100 different herbal remedies to try and train your mind, the lunar cycle still dominates everything about your existence. As the full moon approaches, your symptoms intensify day after day, peaking at the full moon itself when transformation becomes unavoidable. Your werewolf friends claim that particularly old or powerful werewolves can transform at will, regardless of the moon's phase. But even they can't resist the pull of the full moon. Your entire life reorganizes around this monthly cycle, scheduling work, social engagements, and travel to accommodate your condition. Finding safe places to transform becomes a constant concern. You need somewhere isolated, secure, and with enough space for the wolf to roam without encountering humans. Some werewolves invest in remote cabins or reinforced basement chambers. Others seek out deep wilderness areas, traveling far from civilization before the moon rises. Some even try tying each other to trees in the forest with chains, but that rarely works. The risk of discovery is constant. Employment becomes pretty complicated when you have to miss work entirely during full moons. It's pretty hard to lie to your boss about why you keep disappearing 12 times a year. Close relationships are also difficult to maintain when you need to keep such a big secret and regularly go off the grid without explanation. And if anyone even thinks to find a pattern between you and the full moon, which wouldn't be hard, it won't be long until a werewolf hunter is on your case. You live in a constant state of paranoia, always looking over your shoulder and never knowing just who could be onto you. Luckily, you have a new pack to lean on. which is the defining characteristic of werewolf society. Being the social creatures they are, they operate in a hierarchical system. A lone werewolf, called the omega in the werewolf community, is vulnerable both physically and psychologically. Your wolf nature craves pack interaction and stability, and without it, controlling transformations becomes borderline impossible. Pack structure typically follows an alpha, beta, omega hierarchy, although some modern werewolf communities reject these terms as oversimplifications. The alpha, traditionally the strongest and most experienced werewolf, provides leadership and protection for the pack. Betas form the core of the pack, or the middle class, while newer members or those of lower status hold the omega positions. This hierarchy isn't just social. It affects transformation experiences, with alphas typically having greater control over their wolf forms and helping others manage their transformations. Joining a pack as a newly turned werewolf provides crucial support and guidance, particularly for cultivating control over your wolf self. Experienced werewolves teach techniques for managing enhanced senses, controlling pre-transformation symptoms, and finding safe transformation locations. More importantly, they offer community with other people who understand your condition and can help track and contain your wolf form during full moons. Wolves from the same pack will recognize each other even in wolf form, especially by scent, so pack members will never attack one another, unless it's to establish dominance. You're not just a pack as humans, but as wolves too. Another important aspect in your new life is that territory is now vitally important. Werewolves are fiercely territorial creatures, with packs claiming and defending specific geographic areas. These territories need to be large enough to accommodate hunting during transformations, secure enough to prevent human discovery, and clear of any other supernatural threats. City-dwelling werewolves face unique challenges, often establishing territories in industrial areas, abandoned buildings, or park systems. Territorial disputes between packs become violent, and can often evolve into full-on werewolf gang warfare, especially during full moons when control is limited. The relationship between werewolf and maker, the werewolf who infected you, varies across different traditions and cultures. In some, a strong bond forms, with the maker taking responsibility for teaching and guiding their protege. In other cultures, there's zero special connection beyond the transmission of the curse. Some werewolf folklore suggests that killing your maker might cure your lycanthropy, but this is generally considered to be a myth by older werewolves who have witnessed the failed attempts. Regardless, you never meet your maker. Like you, whoever that werewolf was probably doesn't even remember biting you. The question of whether your condition is truly a curse or a gift becomes increasingly complex the longer you live with it. The enhanced physical abilities, heightened senses, accelerated healing, and extended lifespan might seem like big positives, yet these benefits come with severe costs. You lose control every month, you're extremely harmful to others, you grow isolated from human society, and you're always paranoid about being discovered by werewolf hunters who are specifically trained to murder you. The other thing that plagues your mind is the ethical dilemmas of your condition. Every werewolf must confront the possibility that their wolf form might injure or even kill a human. Some werewolves develop elaborate systems to contain themselves during full moons, using reinforced chambers, remote locations, or even chemical sedation. Others rely on pack members to monitor and control them. The psychological burden of potentially killing an innocent person weighs so heavily, leading many werewolves to become reclusive or excessively cautious in human interactions. Religious conflict is another big problem for werewolves from more traditional backgrounds. These institutions often view lycanthropy as demonic possession, and some villages have religious texts and traditions with specific mentions against beasts of the moon, or similar descriptions of werewolves. Holy ground in particular is a problem. Some werewolves can enter holy places without an issue, but others will burn to a crisp as soon as they cross the church doors. Why? Well, we don't really know. It could be based on faith, your background, what strain of the werewolf curse you have. But as a werewolf, you don't really want to be sacrificing members in your pack for the sake of answers. Killing your fellow werewolf brothers like that in the name of science is kinda unnecessary, so it's best you just stay away from it. In the interest of safety, most werewolves in human form reject religion altogether, and those who retain control in their wolf self stay well clear of any religious sites, just in case. You may be incredibly strong, tough, and able to regenerate from almost any wounds. But you have one massive weakness that almost everyone knows about. Silver. Contact with silver causes immediate pain and prevents your werewolf healing abilities from functioning. Silver weapons can cause permanent injury or death to werewolves, making them the preferred tools of werewolf hunters. Modern werewolves develop silver allergies in their human form as well, manifesting as rashes or burns from jewelry, knives and forks, or other common items. Werewolf hunters will use this to their advantage, trying to make suspected humans touch silver to see how they react, and loading their guns with silver bullets so they can finish the job. Wolfsbane is also a weakness, but potentially a treatment too. You've heard of werewolves who can temporarily suppress transformation when prepared in specific ways, but with toxic side effects. Other werewolves claim that prolonged exposure to wolfsbane weakens werewolves or reveals their true nature. Some even say that certain preparations of wolfsbane can help newly turned werewolves maintain some consciousness during transformation, though at significant risk. Again, given the risk, it's kinda hard for the pack to get enough werewolves together who'd be willing to partake in some kind of scientific study on this. But after biting the bullet and giving wolfsbane a go for yourself, you found it made you incredibly weak and you were unable to move from your bed for the last 7 days. So you come to the conclusion that it probably depends on the werewolf. Even though it's the most famous, the full moon isn't the only celestial event affecting werewolves. Lunar eclipses, blue moons, and moon phases occurring during solstices or equinoxes can all produce unique effects. The lunar eclipse often causes a violent and uncontrollable wolf form that even the best containment cells can't stop. Blue moons enhance werewolf abilities, but also enhance greater human consciousness during transformation. After years of practice, experimentation, and desperation, it's during a blue moon that you become semi-conscious in your wolf state, and you can remember what you do. Mostly, it's hunting and gutting animals. But congrats! Something worked, and hopefully one day you'll be able to control your wolf self fully. The aging process for werewolves differs dramatically from humans. Physical prime extends for decades, with werewolves maintaining peak condition well into what would be considered old age for humans. The exact lifespan varies, with some werewolves only living slightly longer than humans, while others claim to have been around for centuries. This extended lifespan creates its own challenges. You watch as what few human friends and family you have age and die, while you remain physically unchanged, needing to relocate periodically to avoid any questions about your lack of aging. If you don't manage to change your identity, it makes it incredibly easy for werewolf hunters to label a 120-year-old rip dude living in the forest a werewolf. So mastering multiple identities and remembering details about your life is crucial. As you age, your relationship with the wolf changes. You're not sure whether it's the countless experiments you've run or just age and time, but the wolf mind becomes less foreign and frightening over time. It's more a part of your identity now than an invading force. You begin to exert control over your transformed self for a couple of minutes, then hours, then sometimes a whole night. As far as you can tell, the only way to gain control is to not fight the wolf, but accept it for what it is. As you become an expert in controlling the wolf mind, and now an elder in the werewolf pack, the question of a cure returns. In the early days, you had to come to terms with the fact that there is no cure. But every day, exciting new research and experiments suggest that someday, reversing the condition might be possible. You heard about one werewolf who killed their maker, which reversed the curse. Others have claimed that specific magical rituals performed under certain moon phases can remove lycanthropy. More modern science-based werewolves explore scientific approaches like gene therapy to limited success. Whether being a werewolf is a curse or something that needs to be cured is a big point of contention in werewolf communities. You know yourself that the easiest way to control the wolf mind is to simply accept it and not resist, but the dilemma is a very touchy subject in the community. Entire packs of werewolves form based on where they fall on this ethical question, with some even waging battles over the ideological split. But despite these hardships, werewolf communities often develop rich cultures and traditions around their condition. Monthly gatherings that are specifically timed to line up with full moon transformations allow packs to run together safely. Celebrations marking seasonal moon events or recognizing young werewolves' first controlled transformations help to foster the community. Oral histories and knowledge passed down through generations provide context and guidance for managing lycanthropy in changing times. As decades pass, you face the choice all aging werewolves must make: whether to embrace your nature fully or continue fighting against it. You know that some elderly werewolves feel the call, a total submission to the wolf side of themselves, marking a permanent transformation into their wolf self. These older werewolves, often called prime werewolves, are revered in werewolf society and are always protected, even from a distance. No one is sure just how much of the human side of the werewolf remains when they perform this final transformation. But as werewolves age, the call becomes inevitable. One day, when you're nearly over 130 years old, the call comes for you too. You hear wolf howls in your dreams, you see the blood moon, and feel the inescapable pull of the wilderness. Human civilization starts to seem dull and meaningless. You see wild animals and yearn for nothing more than to run alongside them. By this point in your life, you've left all your friends and family behind, because you just can't bear to see them die anymore as you continue to age. In a way, you understand that the call is just the next stage of being a werewolf, and it's not to be feared. Finally, you choose a date, the summer solstice, and you tell the werewolf pack of your decision. You're treated like a hero, and your werewolf friends, the pack that made this all mean something, say their goodbyes as you head out into the forest where you were first turned. And there, you fully submit to the wolf mind. As the wolf takes over, you wonder whether that the wolf that bit you all those years ago was a prime werewolf too, like you were about to be. Before you could give the idea any more thought, you feel the wolf mind take over for the final time, and whatever human part of you still exists, fades into nothing.